How in the world is a buyer supposed to pay their real estate agent's fee now that it is their responsibility to do so? Well, we're going to talk about your options today as buyers, so you don't want to miss this video. As you know, there are new real estate rules and policies that became effective in August of this year. And today, we're specifically going to talk about the new rule that places the responsibility for the buyer's agent's professional fee to be paid by the buyer in a purchase transaction. Now, this is a nationwide rule, and it's for any buyer that wants to have their own agent working alongside them when they go through the home buying process, whether it's for new construction or for resale homes. And listen, guys, before you freak out, today I'm going to share with you options that you have as a buyer so that you don't have to write a personal check for your agent at the closing table. So stick around. Of course, my goal today is to hopefully give you more clarity about the new rules so that you can understand all of the options that you have, and you'll be able to see that it's really not that big a deal.
Yeah, whatever. No big deal.
It's no big deal.
It's no big deal. This is no big deal.
And hey, if you get any value out of this video, please be sure to like it and subscribe to this channel. And I'm going to keep sharing videos about all things real estate, all things about the local markets here, the communities here in Manatee and Sarasota counties and the counties around it. So be sure to subscribe. So I don't want to take time to get you all up to speed on what the National Association of Realtors settlement was about, the whole court case, what caused the new policies and procedures to come about, because I've already put together a great resource. It's going to explain it all. And for anyone that wants to have all of that information, I put it here in this guide. It's called A Consumer Guide to the NAR Settlement. And of course, I'm going to leave that link below so you can just click on it and get that guide. And again, this guide is going to get into all of the nuts and bolts of the lawsuit and of course the settlement agreement so that you're going to be all schooled. You'll know everything that went on in that settlement and what's going to change going forward in the real estate landscape. So be sure to check out that link below. So let me clear up the confusion surrounding the rule that buyers are now responsible to pay their agent's fee. And of course, to set a framework for this, remember that the last many years, how buyers' agents were compensated for their professional fee was because the seller had agreed to pay a certain amount with their listing agent when they placed their home on the market. And a portion of that amount that was paid to the listing brokerage was going to be offered to the brokerage, the buyer's agent, bringing in a buyer, and we called that co-oping or cooperation. Now, the agreement that the seller had with their listing agent's brokerage, it was never a fixed amount, no matter what the media tells you. It was never a fixed amount.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
The National Association of Realtors is a trade association, so they never set fees to begin with. Fees were always negotiable between the seller and that brokerage. And once a resale seller or a new construction builder, for that matter, agreed on what flat fee or percentage amount they were going to offer through their listing agent's brokerage to the buyer's agent's brokerage, once that was agreed upon, then the MLS requirement was that that negotiated flat fee or percentage, whatever it was put in the MLS listing of that property so that all agents could see what any individual seller through their listing agent's brokerage, and of course, this was whether it was resale or new construction, any agent could see on the MLS what amount the seller or the new construction builder was offering to the buyer's agent. Now, some of the lawsuit content was that the practice of showing that amount in the MLS, they considered to be price fixing even though those amounts were all different. And they said that that practice, therefore, was an antitrust violation because they said the buyer didn't see that information, which is true, and the buyer didn't know what their agent was being paid until they saw the settlement sheet when they were closing. And there were agents, because every industry has some bad apples.
One bad apple don't spoil a whole bunch, girl.
Exactly. A few bad apples don't spoil the whole bunch there, people. But some agents would not show homes to their buyers if those compensation amounts were lower than the agent thought they should be. And that's a bad no-no. That's no-no. So, of course, that's a problem because our job is to show you everything that you want to see, regardless of compensation. And that's why many good Apple agents had already been putting our prospective buyers on MLS automatic searches. Because we put your criteria in, and whatever house you choose from the options that fit your criteria that show up on your automatic search, well, that's what we showed you. But unfortunately, that was not the practice of all. So now, the new rule is that no compensation amounts are allowed in any MLS databases. Therefore, agents can no longer dodge a certain listing and not show it to their buyer based on whatever fee is in there, because it's not going to be in there anymore.
Gone, really gone.
And myself and many other real estate professionals, we applaud this new rule because I think that now the playing field is going to be fair for both buyers and sellers. So in today's real estate world, the buyer who wishes to have their own agent work for them to purchase a home must now sign an agreement with the agent that they choose, stating the relationship that they're going to have with that agent. And that agreement is going to share the terms of their home search, each party's responsibilities, the timing of that agreement, and of course, the amount of their agent's professional fee. And of course, there's going to be several types of agreements that can be used. And that's something that you can discuss with your real estate agent and see which agreement works best in your situation and, of course, in your home buying timeline. And, of course, these types are going to be different depending on your local MLS. I also believe that these now mandatory rules and procedures are really good for the real estate industry because it forces the not-so-great agents to be better at what they do.
Be better.
Do the simple stuff right.
I think that it's going to create more clarity and, of course, transparency for both the buyers and the sellers working with real estate professionals moving forward. And, of course, along with these new forms, there's also going to be modification forms that can be used if you need to change or maybe modify the original agreement that you have with your real estate professional if each party agrees to modify something. This is also that from the very beginning of your home search, you know exactly as a buyer where you stand, what your agent is going to do for you, and of course what their professional fee is, so that full transparency is available from the get-go.
Oh my God. I get it.
So just like you would, go and meet with maybe a CPA or maybe a lawyer, and you find out, hey, what can you do for me for my case? What is your professional fee? And you're going to determine that based on their expertise and their skills and what they offer their customers. These are things you would find out for a lawyer and a CPA or a doctor maybe. You would find these things out all before you decide you want to work with them, right? Well, that's how it's going to be for the real estate industry in this new real estate landscape. So yes, you are going to be required to have some sort of agency agreement with the agent that you choose prior to even going to see one house. So we can no longer just meet with you and show you houses. Then if we go under contract, then we do all the paperwork. Ain't going to happen that way anymore because that is no longer the process. You're going to have your agreement with your agent in place prior to when you go see any homes. And before we jump into our options, here's a few things that you definitely want to keep in mind. If you go to an open house, you are not required to have an agent agreement in place. But if you already know that when you do buy a house and you know that you want your own agent to represent you, then at the open house that you go and check out, I really recommend that you tell the agent in the open house that you already have your own agent. And remember, you're not forced to sign anything if you don't want to at an open house. Now, as a buyer, remember that you do not have to use your own agent ever. You can always just go it alone, represent yourself, and work with the seller, kind of like working with for sale by owner. So you have the option of still not having an agent at all. Or you also have the option to go directly to the agent that is working for a seller, right? You can have that agent write up the contract for you. That is also an option that you have. But remember, that agent is still going to have a professional fee now to work your buyer side. So either way, there's going to be some sort of fee, whether the seller's paying it or you as a buyer is paying it. So if you want your own agent, that's something to keep in mind. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Catherine, just shut up and tell us the options, would you? That's where we're going.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
I want to put your mind at ease for all of you home buyers, wherever you are in the country, and of course, all of the prospective buyers that I already have on MLS Auto Home Searches. Here are some options that we have to make sure that the professional fee for your buyer's agent is not coming out of your pocket at the closing table. The biggest thing is remember that most sellers are still going to offer compensation to a buyer's agent to bring a buyer to see their home. Basically, many sellers are still going to do it the traditional way, but now instead of whatever that amount is, instead of it being advertised on the MLS, it's going to be communicated through maybe flyers or emails or Facebook campaigns. And of course, the agent can just call the other agent and say, hey, are you offering any buyer's agent compensation? I can tell you right now, I'm getting 500 more emails, thank you, than I used to get from lots of agents and new construction salespeople. And they're sharing what their seller is offering to a buyer's agent. They're still telling us this seller is offering this much and this seller is offering that much. So remember, as I've been sharing with you for over the past 6 months, prices are decreasing in our counties, Manatee and Sarasota, and homes are on the market much longer than the past few years. So I'm seeing that sellers and or their listing broker, they're very motivated to offer compensation to an agent for the buyer, well, because they want those agents bringing people to see those homes. And yes, this also goes for new construction homes. Most builders are still offering compensation to an agent to bring buyers to see their homes. Now remember, many builders already had agent policies in place prior to these new real estate rules. And of course, that meant that if a buyer wanted to have their own agent work with them to purchase one of the builder's homes, then they either had to have their agent register them with the builder prior to coming to see the models, or some builders insisted that you show up with your agent to register you on the very first visit. Now, some builders may still require those procedures. And of course, that's kind of frustrating for buyers that want to work with their own agent, especially for those that aren't quite ready to buy. They just want to go look at model houses. What should be wrong with that, right? They want to go look at model houses because maybe they're curious about it and they want to, narrow down their search when they are ready. And then they'll bring their agent in at that time. So why some builders make that kind of difficult, I don't know. You'd think they just want to sell their product.
What is wrong with you?
But I digress. Anyway, if that's you, and you want to look at model homes, you need to be aware. And you need to ask them what their policies are. Now, some are posted on their websites. And of course, a lot of them, most builders on their website, you have that little chat. You can do their online sales team. And you can ask them, what is your policy if I want to work with an agent down the road? And you got to do this before you go see their models. If having your own agent is important for you. If it's not important to you and you don't care, you just don't care, don't worry about it. And of course, if you want to chat with me personally about why I think it's important for all buyers to have somebody represent them, reach out to me. I can share with you some examples of some of my buyers that were so glad they had an agent working for them during the process. No kidding. Some interesting stories. That's option number one. Sellers are already going to do it the traditional way. Now, this now is primarily option number two for sellers that are resale. What if you don't know what the seller or their listing agent is offering because they didn't advertise it, right? You don't know what they're going to offer to your buyer's agent. Or maybe that listing agent just told your buyer's agent, hey, just present an offer. In this case, what I'm going to do when I sit down with my buyers, or maybe your agent's going to do the same when they sit down with you, wherever you are in the country, and they sit down with you to write the offer for the house that you hopefully want to go under contract on. I'm going to do this, and many agents are going to write their professional fee into the contracts as one of the terms. So just like you would write any other terms in a contract, your agent's going to say, hey, here's what my buyers want to pay for your house. Here's the deposit they're going to put down. This is the kind of loan they're going to get. This is the closing date that we'd like to say, we'd like you to agree to. Hey, we would love for you to leave all the pool equipment, and we would love you to leave that beautiful chandelier you got in the dining room. You know, just like you would do any other contract terms when you're writing an offer, part of that would be, and we would like for you to pay whatever percentage, whatever flat fee, whatever you have agreed already to in writing with your agent prior to going to see any homes. You're going to ask the seller to please pay that amount in your offer. So then, just like you would any other offer, you're going to wait for the seller to respond to your offer, maybe in a counter offer. Maybe they accept what you've said. Maybe they come back and they say, hey, we're only going to give you half of whatever percentage, or we're only going to give you this amount towards your buyer's agency agreement of what their fee is. And then you get to decide with your professional agent, again, do we counter back? Do we go back in here and try to come up with another reason? But there's lots of ways you can fit it into the contract. And again, some sellers aren't going to offer anything up front. They're just going to wait for an offer to come in, and then they'll go that way. And of course, you've got to keep in mind, that's going to depend on how long that house has been on the market, how motivated that seller is, and what your offer is. So if you go in with a really low ball offer on a house that actually values close to where they have the house listed at their listing price, and then you ask for them to pay your agent's fee on top of that too, then, you know, you might be met with some resistance. Now, again, it's kind of different wherever you are, because a lot of you are up, and I know because a lot of you are coming to me and I'm helping you find homes here from Long Island and from Jersey and from Pennsylvania. And you guys are you're still seeing multiple offer situations. You're still making a really good amount on your homes up there. So it's a little different down here. We have more inventory now, and prices are lower. So again, you can work your professional agent's fee into the offer that you write a seller and see what they come back with.
I'll see the 500. I'll raise 2,000.
Option number three, seller concession. So depending on the type of loan you're getting, FHA, conventional, VA, if you're getting a loan, you can ask for the seller to contribute, you know, whatever amount that is allowable for that loan type towards paying your agent's professional fee. There's a graph here. It kind of shows you for each loan type what is allowed, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the seller has to agree, but concession monies that the seller does offer can go towards your agent's compensation. Now, these next two options that I'm going to share with you are going to be, I would say, less likely scenarios, but they're still options. Option number 4, you can reduce your down payment. So this option, of course, would be for those of you who already have a good down payment amount ready. You're already ready with a chunk of money. It's not for those who are just barely have their 3% down or your 3.5% or your 10% or your 20%. It's not for you guys. But for those of you that already have a good chunk of money to put down, you could, if none of the other options worked out, especially if you're in a market like up north, and of course that's less likely, but just in case.
I understand.
I understand.
I understand.
You could put less money down and then pay your agent from those funds at closing. Number 5, roll the agent's professional fee into the price as a seller credit. Now, of course, you got to check with your lender and make sure the appraised values are good. But that could be some of the fee or all of it. Now, I want to give you an example. Now, this is not currently happening in our market because, again, we have lots of inventory and lower prices. But up north, like I said before, those sales prices are still high and they have zero inventory. I want to give you an example of maybe what an agent, if you're in one of those scenarios where there's not much inventory. So let's say in this scenario, you're having to pay your fee to the agent, whether it's all of it or part of it, but it's financed into your loan amount and you're not cutting a check at closing. Let's say you're up there in Long Island. Shout out to all my Long Island people. I love you guys. You're so much fun to work with when you come down here. But to you that are in that market where you're still seeing really low inventory and you're still having to pay more than maybe something's worth if you have to buy because there are multiple offers still going on in some of those states up there. If that's you and you have a seller that you want to buy their home, but they're like, we ain't offering jack squat, baby. We ain't doing it. But you really need that house or want that house. Then, of course, you can see based on if you're getting a loan, right, what loan type, then you can perhaps roll that into your loan. For example, and I'm going to use $500,000. I know there's nothing for $500,000 up north, right? That'd be like a chicken coop. So let's say the house is $500,000 and you really need to move and the seller's not willing to do anything. Well, and let's say that your agent's professional fee is 3%. Now, I don't know what that fee is going to be. That's between you and your agent up there. But let's just say that her or his professional fee is 3% and the seller ain't doing squat. So what you could do is you could roll in and say, Mr. Seller, we'll give you $500,000 for your house, but we're going to ask that the price be $515,000 and then ask for that $15,000 extra to cover our professional agent's fee. So that is something that you could do if you're in that kind of tight market. Again, I think that that's really less likely in our markets right now because, again, we have a lot of inventory and we have lowering prices and most sellers are still offering something in Florida, Manatee, and Sarasota counties. And, of course, number 6 option, maybe you're just daddy warbucks and you can pay your agent out of your own pocket from the get-go. So you know what? That's also an option. I don't think we're going to see that a lot, but that's also an option. 7, you have the option of combining some of those options together to work for your situation. Listen, here's the most important thing I want to communicate to you as a buyer of real estate. You will never have to cut a check out of your pocket to your agent if you don't want to. Because even in the worst case scenario, let's say that you find a house that you really love and you write an offer and you find out that that seller is not going to accept any of the above options that we already talked about. They're telling you you can
Kiss my grits!
They're not going to help you compensate your agent at all. Then you have another option in this worst case scenario. And you know what it is?
Yeah, we are definitely out of here.
That's right. You just don't buy that house. You just say, later days, seller, and you move on to find another home where you can find a seller that's willing to work with whatever your buyer situation is. And I want to tell you, you also have another option, right? Because this is all about buyer options. You can ask your agent that you're working with to only show you houses where that agent already knows before you even go and see that house. You already know that the seller or the seller's agent is offering something to pay your buyer's agent. Now, that is an option. But I personally will recommend to my buyers that we don't weed out any homes to see if they fit their criteria, because I'm going to recommend that my buyers go see all of the homes that interest them, and that we'll just cross that bridge when we get there if we decide to write an offer on that particular house. Because in the end, that is going to be the buyer's choice. Now, the reason I recommend that is because I think, again, here was the problem before, that buyers, maybe weren't seeing because they had an agent they were working with that wasn't showing them all the houses because they thought the price, the compensation to them was too low. And again, that's why we're kind of in this place right now. So I'm going to recommend to my buyers, let's just go see everything that you want to see. Let's not get bogged down with what they're doing and what they're not doing, as far as the seller paying your agent compensation. Let's just go see everything. And remember, guys, that a lot of times sellers to begin with, they'll say, I'm not offering anything to that buyer's agent. We've had to pay these fees for too long. Now, that's going to happen, unfortunately. But remember, sometimes after a while, and they haven't had any offers on their homes, they might be more willing to work with a buyer to help compensate their agent. So I just really, as a buyer's agent, I would recommend that you don't weed anybody out or weed any of those homes out, up front. Just go see everything that fits, because you never know that you're going to come across a seller that's really willing to do something now maybe they weren't before. Again, that is your choice as a buyer. If you tell me, we don't even want to mess with it, just show us homes where you already know, Catherine, the seller is going to pay something, is going to help cover your fee, then that's all I'm going to show them. But I really recommend you don't do that, because I think you're going to miss out on some great options. Now, should you choose a real estate agent to work with you that has the lowest professional fee? Well, I'm going to recommend no, and here's why. A really good agent, and there are a lot of them out there, all kinds of great agents in each state, guys. But a good, skilled, professional real estate agent is going to work really hard with the seller's agent to negotiate their professional fee into the contract without you having to personally cut them a check at closing. And you guys, like I've said before, savvy sellers, they're already aware that buyers are really nervous about having to now be responsible to pay their agent themselves, especially when they know buyers already have a down payment they need to have. Buyers already have to bring crazy amounts of money to the table for closing costs. And in a few weeks, I'm doing a video about the ridiculous closing costs that people pay now, so stick around for that. Sellers know that buyers are already paying higher mortgage rates, even though we have seen them coming down lately. So, of course, that's a great silver lining. But sellers know that buyers already have to pay like these upfront fees, things for inspections and appraisals, maybe a survey or whatever. They already know that buyers are kind of burdened with things. So if you're a hopeful buyer and you're like, Catherine, I want my own agent, but I don't have extra thousands to pay one.
Tell me about it.
Of course, I hear you, right? Although I think this new rule is going to be better in the sense of transparency. It may seem like it puts an extra burden on the already burdened buyer, and sellers understand that. So that's why I think savvy sellers are still, again, especially in markets like mine, where prices are lower and we have more inventory, I think savvy sellers are going to say, hey, we want you to bring as many people in to see our house as you can. So again, just chill, relax. We're going to work that out.
We can work it out. We can work it out.
So be encouraged, buyers. There are many options for what type of agreement you're going to have with your agent. You're going to have options for never having to cut a check yourself at the closing table for your professional agent's fee. You have options on which agent you're going to choose to work with if you choose to work with an agent. Because remember, you don't have to agree to anything if you don't want to. So again, the last important thing I really want to get across to you is I encourage you, don't choose an agent just based on their fee, right? Because you get what you pay for. You want to find an agent that's going to allow you to share your thoughts, maybe your long-time goals, maybe an investment goal that you have or a vacation home that you're thinking of, what it's going to do for you later on down the road. You want an agent that's going to hear you, not dismiss you. You want someone that's going to spend time with you, explain things, because things are different in each state, right? So are they going to educate you through the process? And of course, you want someone that's quick to respond to you when you need them. Maybe you have a question, and do they have solutions for any situations that pop up? The most important thing is, do you connect with your agent? Do you feel like they're going to have your best interests at heart? If you're moving from here to another state and you're like, hey, Catherine, we're moving to Long Island, or we're moving to Pennsylvania or Maryland or Colorado or wherever it may be. If you need to know a really great agent, give me a call. I've got contacts all over the country. I've been in this business for almost 28 years. Know a lot of people. I've done a lot of referrals. So I'd be really, really honored to connect you with a great agent somewhere else. And if you're coming down here, I'd love to meet up with you as well. So stay encouraged. Hope these things helped you out. And don't forget, if you got some value out of this, please like this video and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Peace out.